Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Bring Your Video. What if I guess today is a Bring Your Division 2 video, and today I want to go over all the biggest changes to skills in Title Update 5. Now I will say these changes are not everything. There's still more changes in the patch notes and the kind of summary they posted on Reddit, but this is everything they pretty much talked about on the state of game, and these are the kind of key changes, or the biggest changes I guess you could say, to skills that will be kind of more noticeable and that will change pretty much the playing field, I guess you could say, with skills for PvP or even PvE. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video. If you have any questions at the end of this, let me know in the comments. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. But thank you so much for watching, and here is what they said.
Okay, let's get into the big things for skills. I think we can highlight some good ones here. So first and foremost, we, on Friday, updated the PTS and increased the generosity of skill haste on gear and talents across the board. And I think the end result was really positive. We also, in tandem with that, lowered the base cooldowns of skills, or almost all skills, across the board. Those two things in particular, or in combination, create what I consider a pretty good place right now for skill haste and skill cooldowns and viability and uptime and all that stuff. But in addition to all of those things, we did one more thing, which I think is going to hopefully make a lot of people happy. We've removed the minimum hard cap of 10 seconds on skills. And we lowered it from 10 seconds to 3 seconds. Meaning, if you really go ham on skill haste and you're using one of our lower cooldown skills like the Cluster Seeker or Pulse, you can push that below 10 seconds. Mathematically, I don't know if it's possible, but you could get it down to probably about 5 seconds, the Cluster Seeker. So
there's the challenge.
That's cool.
So this is in tandem with all of the increases to skill damage and base platform damage, which I'll get into. So I think that's a big one. That's a really big one that should make a lot of people happy.
I feel like it's making you nervous.
It is making me nervous because it's.
He has played it.
When you go from, on the PTS, you could get the Cluster Seeker with one skill haste mod and skill haste gear. You could get it to 10 seconds. In fact, you could get it a little bit below 10 seconds, but you were at that minimum cap. If you plug in another skill haste mod, you're going to lower that further. Okay. So, like I said, it's 5-second seekers might be a thing.
Okay.
Skills are coming.
Skills are coming.
Okay.
So have fun. Yeah, let's look forward to it.
Well, knowledge is power, so that's why we're here. So now,
The more you know.
Exactly. The more you know.
Sorry, I almost stabbed you.
That's okay. I lived through it.
Okay, moving on. Another big one I guess we can talk about real quick is we fixed a bunch of bad behavior and synergy related to like the BTSU gloves and how it interacts with Pulse. I want to take this moment to, after talking to Frederick and some of the guys on the team, so the Pulse status effect is not technically a status effect. Okay. And it should not be treated as that. So let's get that out there. It's the BTSU gloves are meant to affect things that are elemental in nature. The Pulse is not like that. The Pulse is not a blind. It is not a fire effect. It's not a poison or a gas or a confused.
So if it's not Captain Planet, it's,
Pulse is the ether.
Yeah.
It's like the ethereal thing.
Yeah, it's
and
it's primordial.
It's primordial.
Okay.
It's your core.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm touching the mic. Yeah, so that's a fix. So you might have seen some odd behavior and been like, Potter's 40-second pulse durations, and it's like, no, forget it. And another big one is you can no longer blow yourself up with your own quick deployed skills with the BTSU
videos were pretty
gloves.
funny though.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I resisted this one quite a lot, really. Like, I fought tooth and nail to keep it that way because I think it's hilarious. No, I'm kidding. No, so if you quick deploy your skill platforms while charged with an elemental effect or a status effect from your BTSU gloves, you will not set yourself on fire or explode or
great.
bleed to death.
Okay.
Meaning if you go down and you quick deploy your Reviver Hive, it'll save you and not murder you.
Okay, good to know.
That's cool.
Safety first, guys.
We increased the the radius of the gunner's riot foam grenade from 2 meters to 3 meters. I think that's a nice quality of life improvement. It's quite difficult to stick people. And that's kind of the last of sort of like the more general things. Let's dive into some of the big tickets.
What are your favorite details?
Yeah, let's go into it. So the turret. So we increased the base damage of the assault turret by 22.5%. So with 3,000 skill power and a bunch of beefed up damage mods, that puppy does about 30,000 damage per shot right now.
Damn.
At the top end. We've also increased the assault turret base duration from 120 seconds to 300, and the base turret platform's health by 100% as well. So it's more durable.
Good to know.
It's now more durable than the drone, which gets to the next one. So the Stryker Drone. The Stryker Drone's base damage was increased by 7.1%, which sounds conservative, and it's very conservative considering that the Stryker Drone's damage profile is quite low. It's a lot lower than the turret in particular. But the Stryker Drone is not really meant to be a killer. It's more of a nuisance, and it will flush targets from cover and annoy the AI. It's like bees, right? It's like, not the bees. Or one big bee, I guess. So we buffed its base damage a little bit, but here's the kicker. The Blitzkrieg Blasting Powder damage variant for the Stryker Drone, we buffed its damage increase from 200% to 600%.
Damn.
So if you want to, you can mod the Stryker Drone at endgame, and assuming you've got enough skill power, you can make it pretty murderous.
A very angry bumblebee.
A very, very angry bumblebee.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that.
We've also increased the base duration of all the drone platforms from 120 seconds to 300 seconds, just 5 minutes, so it's going to follow you. And really the intention is that the duration of the platform itself shouldn't really be a consideration.
I like that.
Yeah, it's more the intention is that you need to use your skill effectively and not just sort of like toss it into harm's way. And if you can preserve it, it will last the majority, if not the entirety of an encounter. That's the goal. So I think that will accomplish it. Accomplish that anyway. We've also normalized, I won't go into the nitty-gritty details, but we've normalized the health value of all drone platform variants to be the same for balancing purposes because there were some outliers there. Okay, the Seeker Mine. This one's cool. So the explosive Seeker Mine radius now correctly says 5 meters in the UI. It erroneously says 6 meters. The increased cluster Seeker Mine, we increased the cluster Seeker Mine explosion radius from 3 meters to 4 meters. So it should have an easier time catching people without necessarily being too overpowered.
All of these changes, they apply to PvE and PvP as well. And then I guess the damage modifier on top of that.
Yeah, so everything, the way the skills and PvP normalization works is that they're currently reduced by a percentage across the board. So anything that is changed here will affect the PvP landscape, but will still be affected by the normalization modifiers.
Yeah.
So a Stryker Drone is still doing less damage. The assault turret and the Stryker Drone are not doing 30,000 damage per shot to a player. They're doing less than that.
Yeah, but the ratio of the increase is the same.
Yes.
Yeah, when you apply the PvP modifier.
Yeah, so if we increase the turret damage by 10%, it's going to do 10% more damage in PvP.
Yeah. Cool.
Good clarification.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Oh,
or thank you, Ella, for putting it up on the screen and getting us to address it. So the UI, in addition to the fix to the explosive Seeker Mine radius and the cluster Seeker Mine radius increase, the UI now correctly shows that radius, whereas before it was smaller than it really was, and yeah, so
I like that.
We've cleaned that up.
That can be very confusing, like if you read something and then see something and it's not
exactly.
what you
So
expect.
we and there's more. We did more fixes similar to that, but that's one I wanted to highlight in particular. So here's another big ticket change. Increase the explosive Seeker Mine's base damage by 25%. So which was already quite high, now it's higher. So the explosive Seeker Mine is the hardest hitting skill in the game. The one being closest to it is the Bombardier drone. Okay. But the explosive Seeker is king burst damage.
There you go.
increased cluster seeker mine base damage by 42.8%.
Okay.
The intention here is to make sure that the cluster seeker remains the best thing. Its job is for clearing the trash. So it will absolutely murder red bar enemies in
Like
one
Hamish.
in one go.
Aw.
Or noobs
Why am I
in the
red
DZ,
bar?
I guess. Maybe not. Okay. Increase the Mender Seeker Mine base duration from 120 seconds to 300 seconds. Again, 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The intention, again, is that it's not something, you should not be concerned about the duration. You should be concerned about keeping the Seeker Mender alive.
Yeah.
Firefly, we increased the Burster Firefly base damage by 6.7%. That's just to kind of like give it more of an identity from its counterpart, the Demolisher. Pulse, this is big. So we made lots of back-end fixes for consistency and usability, but one in particular that I think is going to make a lot of people happy is that the Scanner Pulse will now begin its cooldown after a 3-second delay upon activation, rather than at the end of the pulse effect's duration. Meaning, so we had behavior where you would pulse, and as long as there was something alive that was under the effect of the pulse, or was being affected by your pulse, the cooldown would not begin until that duration expired.
That's super annoying.
Right. So it essentially meaning if you invested in your pulse's duration, you were counterintuitively increasing consequently your cooldown, essentially.
Yeah.
So
I like that change.
if you attach skill haste, but then add duration, they're kind of not canceling each other out.
Yeah.
That's a behavior that obviously is not ideal. So we've completely removed the cooldown of the Scanner Pulse from its reliance on the duration.
Cool.
So now you can have a very short cooldown pulse and pulse
Away.
as much as you want.
I like that. It's also like more intuitive, right? Like you click the button and the cooldown after 3 seconds shows.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the Division 1 behavior. So
Oh yeah.
we're just sort of staying consistent with that.
Makes sense.
There has been a slight nerf to the Banshee Pulse. Its cooldown was 40 seconds. It's now 60 seconds. But we made a bunch of fixes behind the scenes in order to make the Banshee Pulse gain from the proper mods and not double dip from other things. So we made a nice consistency pass there. But unfortunately for people who were really happy with the cooldown on the Banshee Pulse, unfortunately we had to increase it. And we've also removed its interaction with the radius increase mods. Okay. So a Banshee Pulse that went further than you could snipe was unintended.
All right.
So that's a behavior you might have noticed on the PTS.
That's why we do
been
the
fixed.
PTS. That's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. And lastly, the Chem Launcher, we've increased the radius of the Riot Foam
Nice.
from 1.5 meters to 3 meters.
Damn.
I like
okay,
that.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to catch people with it, and you can also increase that radius further with mods and whatnot.
Very cool. So a lot of updates coming in terms of skills in episode 1. If you
And that's only a summary of what's here.
yeah,
so
that's not even the complete
Yeah.
list. So like we said before, Chris has passed those on to Joker, so you can check those out over on Reddit where those recaps usually happen.
And just to also, like, we will obviously include them in the patch notes
Of course.
once the patch goes live.
And also the
You
patch
don't have
notes
to
are
go-
more than just the skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot coming.
And this is also, it's worth mentioning, this is all in addition to the changes that went live on the PTS last Friday.
Yeah.
Which
And
for
these are-
anyone who was unaware included, again, like much more generous skill haste from gear. Also skill haste increase on the set pieces and brand sets. And in particular, a pretty substantial change to the shield. So I hope people have been playing with the shield on the PTS and have been enjoying it.
I saw some clips actually. Yeah, of people.
Yeah,
being like,
it's becoming very viable. It's currently not being properly. Its interaction with healing skills is a bit hit or miss, and we are looking into making sure that any heal effect that applies to the player will also apply to the shield. So that will increase its viability, but that's not something, unfortunately, that we can get in for TU5. It's going to have to wait for TU6.
Cool.
But the shield is pretty great now.
Tier 6 spoilers.
Yeah, there you go.